Hi, everybody. My name is Avner Algom. I'm the general manager of the Israeli Association of Human Language Technology. We are a consortium of industry companies with the support of the Innovation Authority of Israel and the National Digital Management in the purpose of improving the Hebrew and Arabic language understanding. And today we will present you the aim of this project and what our added values. So hopefully we can collaborate in various projects. Okay, for those of you that are not very familiar with NLP, so NLP is a natural language processing, and its aim is to take advantage of artificial intelligence together with linguistics in order to investigate the understanding of natural language, because we want to be able to simulate the human ability to read text and listen to audio, and to automate these processes in the computer systems. So we be able to implement applications that can automate and save time and money to analyze both text and audio, the same way humans do. As you can see, NLP is in most areas of life. We can see here many examples of application that can use or are using natural language processing, from CRM systems, where we have all the communication channels with our customers, like chatbots, like in the routing of calls, etc. Translation tools, any health insurance analysis, spell checkers, etc. Regarding Hebrew and Arabic, as you can see in this map, those Semitic languages are within the Middle East and North Africa mainly. The famous ones obviously are the Hebrew and Arabic languages, but we also have languages like Amharic, which is in Ethiopia, and Tanjin that is in Eritrea. And we, in this national project, we are dealing with Hebrew and Arabic. By the way, Hebrew, today we have around 10 million people speaking Hebrew, and around 450 million in the world speaking Arabic in various dialects. So why we need a national NLP speech consortium? What are the reasons? First of all, there is a need of three main bodies: the industry, the academia, and the government, and they have a shared interest to improve the quality of Hebrew and Arabic language understanding, from two reasons. First of all, we don't want to be behind the world. As you know, English and other popular languages are have more business potential in the world. And historically, many budgets were invested in more popular languages. And therefore, there was a gap of quality that was created when you compare the ability to implement natural language processing applications in Hebrew and Arabic versus English. So we want to bridge this gap faster. In order to do it faster, we need to combine forces between industry, academia, and government. And we achieved many things during the 3 years that we operate. First of all, we build a very professional team that are expertise in Hebrew and Arabic NLP. And the head of technology, Dr. Noam Ordan, is the next speaker, will present our achievements in this field. We build an R&D infrastructure in the cloud that enables you to use it for model training. And we also develop tools, data sets, and corpora that enables you to automate and save money when it comes to automate the annotation and have ready-made corpuses that enable you to train your applications. Another important thing that we have agreements, legal agreements with content providers that enables our members to use their content in order to train models. This is very important because, as you know, there's many legal issues for accessing text and audio if you don't have an agreement with the content provider. So this is another example that the consortium members have. You can see here we have 20 members of the consortium. We have big companies like Amazon AWS, Google. We have the Israeli electricity company, Rafael, which is a big defense company in Israel, Audio Codes, which is very known for its audio, etc. And we have also small companies that you can see here. And one example we have with Dixielang, that is Noam will present a case study that how they used our content in order to improve their applications. So I would like to thank you for being in this event, and I will transfer the speech to Noam. Noam, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Avner. Okay. So okay. So my name is Noam Ordan. I'm the professional manager of IAHLT, and I'd like to invite you to, during my talk, if you have questions, to interrupt or to post it in comments, and someone will echo your question. So I can address it as we go along. It's more likely to be a discussion, hopefully. Okay. The outline is, I will first show you the pipeline from a more technical point of view of how we prepare data, how we store it, how we deliver it, and how we keep version control. I will show you briefly the annotation projects we have achieved so far and some planned. I want to show you a glimpse from a linguistics point of view. So the hardcore of our employees are professional linguists, mostly with a master's. Half of them are native speakers of Arabic and half of them are native speakers of Hebrew. That's a requirement. The team consists of 5 members for each set of projects for each language. We'll discuss a lot metadata and the role of linguists in inspecting it, data itself, then the guidelines, which are always an ongoing process. You can akin it to a cartographer that didn't visit all the lands. You know, language is vast, and there are always more examples you didn't think about, and there is always kind of a ping-pong dialectics between the writing of guidelines and keeping an open questions file and the actual annotation. Then I will show you some examples of how we actually annotate. I will focus shortly on legal named entities. I will present a more ripe project, the Hebrew Tree Bank, for syntax and morphology. I will show you how it can be used also to extract valuable information. Then we'll discuss the Arabic spoken data, which is, I believe, a unique resource that has 2 roles. One of them is to collect data that can help speech to text and text to speech, but also to emulate the Arabic language as spoken in the social media. And lastly, I will show you how we morphologically analyze also, both the modern standard Arabic and the spoken data varieties. So every document has a history, and the history is being recorded as soon as it's being cleaned. So you see here the crawling contents. It's not always crawling, so sometimes we get a dump and we have to clean it. It's as everyone who did machine learning, like, it's probably 80% of the job, but in our case, it's not the preparation for preparing a machine learning algorithm to apply it, but rather to have a very clean data set for production, and production here means annotation, linguistic annotation. So we have a kind of a document store, like a storage place where we store all the documents, and every document has an ID. It knows a lot, so every document has associated with it many fields of metadata. Who we got it from, any socio-linguistic parameter pertaining to this stored document, the date, etc., etc. And then we work on most annotation levels. We work on the sentence level, so we segment the documents to sentences. We validate it manually. It may sound like something you can do by regex and punctuation, etc. It's there is a long tail of cases not covered by models, and since we create gold data, we need to attest to the fact that everything is really gold. So we validate that, and as soon as a sentence is kind of get out of this storage, like sentence storage, it already has lots of IDs attached to it, so it knows a lot about where it came from. And that's even before it's going through the annotation process, and that could include morphology and syntax. It could be semantics in the sense of named entities, at least. It could be for core reference resolution, and it could be also a sentence that is hosted in a document which we summarize. And every such sentence has a memory, so to speak. So it knows a lot about which hands worked on it. So did it was it this annotator or that? What was the phase of employment of this employee? Did he QA it or just annotate it or fix previous annotation? So this knowledge is encapsulated in every single sentence. As I told you, the ping pong between the writing guidelines and annotating data is perpetual. It's always on the move. So that means that our data, by definition, is not going to be consistent, since we update our guidelines and then we have to look back and to see what was updated and how it perpetuated into the sentences. For this, we have lots of heuristics and scripts that have to hypothesize where are the differences, and then we have tools that humans can validate the consistency of our data. And then it goes to release. We release data every quarter, every 3 months. So, and we have a thorough README file for every such release where people can see the different versions of our releases. By the way, our data is freely available for research purposes, and it's being used by various universities. We also have several tools built on top of this data, like parsers and named entity recognition systems and others. And for commercial purposes, talk to Avner. Okay. So what are the projects? So that's kind of in a nutshell what we are having right now. So I kind of do it by projects, and you can see the Hebrew and Arabic. They are not equivalent. Arabic started a year later. So universal dependencies and morphology is covered by Hebrew, a giant tree bank of 40,000 sentences from tons of registers, from semi-spoken to very official Hebrew to protocols of the Knesset, to Supreme Court decisions. So we want to cover as many varieties of Hebrew as we can. Likewise, for Arabic, it's a reduced data set of 10,000 sentences and ongoing. In Arabic, we cover only what's called shallow morphology. So for every token, we segment it to morpheme. So in Hebrew and in Arabic, prepositions and other kind of particles can connect to the word, can be prefixed, and of course some things can be suffixed, like pronominal suffixes. And then you can say, kind of, you can see a string from the computer science point of view, which is should be broken up to different morphemes, which are the minimal atomic semantic units of every word. Like word, I'm using it in a very loose sense. And then each such morpheme is assigned a part of speech tag and a lemma. So lemma is the canonical form as appears in the dictionary. So as you know, like a verb in Hebrew or Arabic can have tons of inflections / conjugations. And we want to find a canonical form that so we can map it and overcome sparsity problems or to augment search, etc. Named entities, we have 12 categories of entities, most notably the PLO, so person, location, and organization. On top of that, we have product, facility, geopolitical entity, time expressions, and more. I'll show you briefly what we are doing with entity linking, very much tied up to the named entities task. What we do with co-reference annotation. We have so far 12,000 sentences for Hebrew, much less for Arabic, but it's already enough to train a kind of small-sized parser, which we are working on these days. Then I think one of the more interesting projects is the transcription spoken Arabic. We have 24 hours so far. That covers around 20,000 unique lemmas. So it covers a giant vocabulary from many local varieties of Arabic, where we hold also lots of metadata about each speaker and about the recording itself. We started working on text summarization, which is less formally defined problem. So far, we did 250 documents. We are going to do it only for Hebrew this year, aiming to 5,000 document summaries, again, for many registers. And then we have unannotated data. So we have around 20,000 articles from Israel Hayom. We have the categories from which they were taken, when they were published. We collect all the user comments and whether people liked it or not and responded to it, and all the hierarchy of the threads of how people get into a dialogue in this unannotated data. And then the same for Kul El Arab, same amount from newspaper in Arabic. I included here in the annotation projects, and it says unannotated, but in fact there is a lot of curation of this data by humans to see that there are no errors in the way the data is being represented, and we'll see examples later. How does it all look like from the linguist's point of view? So the linguists are our money makers, so we also pay them pretty well, and we have well-trained and some non-negligible amount of the linguists have already been with us for 3 years. So we start with a pilot phase. We kind of read whatever guidelines exist for this task in other languages or in Hebrew. In the case of Hebrew, of course, we relied heavily on existing guidelines by the group of Reut Sarfati, both for universal dependencies and for named entities. Then we start annotating with the knowledge, with the painful knowledge that we are going to throw away everything we are annotating at this phase, and it could be thousands of sentences. Because, as I said earlier, you're just imagine some kind of model, you have some kind of idea about how the map should look like, and then you visit the actual territory, and of course, there are lots of counter examples in your face, and you have to refine your model, etc., etc. At some point, there are less questions, so people feel more freely that they can annotate, that they can type without asking too many questions. We also have doubly annotated sentences, so we can see discrepancies between every pair of annotators. And this is the phase where we consolidate our guidelines. We already have like a first serious draft, and then we start to get into production mode. We keep always this open questions document because they never end. Then we have to re-annotate some of the parts we did before in the pilot phase, or we have to throw it away. As I said, sometimes the discrepancy is too large, and it costs us more actually to re-annotate, like in the sense of correcting mistakes, than doing everything from scratch. For evaluating NLP projects, and there is always this intrinsic way you are doing it, and inter-annotator agreement is one practice. So we annotate 5 to 10% of our data twice. And then we can see we're checking with different metrics, most notably Cohen's kappa, the inter-annotator agreement. And the higher it is, the more we believe, have a reason to believe that our data is consistent and therefore learnable. And of course, there is an extrinsic model. We don't have the apparatus for kind of heavy lifting machine learning tools and also GPUs, etc. But we always run models and we see how they improve as we go along. And this is another extrinsic indication of the quality of our data. And lastly, in the QA phase, we they're like, you can imagine, an annotator working in a diff mode in two different annotations and actually adjudicating, rewriting one of the documents, saving it with another name, so to speak. And then we have something which is golder. I wouldn't say it's gold. It's never gold. And as I said earlier, we have lots of rule-based heuristics, which I may show you later. Let's see, time permits. So metadata, as I said, metadata is very important. So I want to show two examples.
Noam, before this,
yeah,
this is in the chat. You have a question,
right? Do we have canonical forms of Arabic first and last names? So as much as they appear in our data, so we do put lemmas for names, but only, like, we don't work systematically on names as such, but they, of course, ubiquitous in every text. And then every time a name appears in whatever orthographic variation, we normalize it by putting the lemma and also adding the vocals, right? The nikud. So that we do also for lemmas. That helps us to disambiguate also lemmas, because lemmas are not necessarily identical. Does that address the question? Zoom is not the best. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so metadata. One register, Bagatz, Supreme Court of Israel. Here is sentence ID. You can see it's kind of normally, it has part of this name is the way we got the original document and converted it. And then it knows like the number of document, the number of paragraphs, and the number of sentence in the paragraph. We know for each such sentence we annotate for whatever, we know that it resides inside the decision, the IAHLT of the court. It could be some other section of the document. We know the ruling name. We know who spoke. We know the defendant and the plaintiff, Ne'esham, what's the other in Hebrew? Tovea. And we know the date. And Israel Hayom is an interesting case because we have user-generated data. As I said, we have the comments, or talkbacks as they are called in Hebrew. It's a false friend. Talkback is not that in English. So the source appears here. It's Israel Hayom, and then we know, did this comment is a response to another comment? No, it does not have a parent comment ID. We have the par number. We know that it has not been manually QA'd yet. We have some kind of funny comment ID. It's possibly the checksum of the comment itself. We know that 25 people liked it, and we know that one person did not like it. We know the publication name. We know that who did the job, like who annotated it. So we anonymize it when we release the data, but our clients can check the differences between different annotators. And we know the domain, it's business, okay? And this is not a very blunt example of what you can see in talkbacks or in comments, but I'm sure all of you know that this is kind of very interesting emulation of the way people talk about stuff in the social media.
וואו.
And importantly, can someone get themselves into mute?
טוב, זה גם קצת רואים שזה קצת,
ואני רואה שני
זה נראה מקצועי כזה.
בודדים, נכון? שתי
Yeah,
מיטות
thank you for
בודדים.
saying it's מקצועי, but
זה מיטות
I hear you
בודדים.
and that's
יש
a
עוד
bit of
אחד?
a problem.
שומעים,
זה
יש מישהו ששומעים אותו,
נדמה לי שזה
תבדקו שאתם
יותר, אני
במיוט.
חושב שזה 6.
Okay, I
האמת
get a
שלא
lot of
הסברת לי, רגע
compliments.
זה תסביר לי מה.
תמשיכו. Okay.
כל הכבוד.
Yeah.
אני אומרת כל הכבוד, ואתה אומר שזה מאוד יקר.
Okay, I'll try to focus. You know that getting content from the social media is hard in terms of licensing. If you want to scrape stuff from Facebook or from LinkedIn, you can get yourself into
הוא
problems.
אמר לנו 300.
לא, אבל ירדנו אחר כך.
Yeah, I can't concentrate. סליחה, מישהו שם מדבר ברקע? אתם יכולים לשים את עצמכם על מיוט?
עכשיו הם במיוט, שמתי אותם במיוט, אתה יכול לדבר.
אתה שמת אותם במיוט.
כן, כי ראיתי שהם מדברים, כן.
הם אמרו דברים נורא נחמדים.
כן, מקווה שזה על ההרצאה שלך.
כן, בסדר, אז, so, again, I want to stress the point that it's hard to get data if you want to distribute it, right? If you want to train a model is one thing, but if you want to distribute it, you want very strict licensing. And that's one of our advantages because we allied with different content providers. And this talkbacking is kind of, it's linguistic goldmine, how should I put it? It's really amazing. And I don't want to show you the more sexy examples here because they are not always very nice. Another source, interesting source for Wikidata, for semi-social network data is the Wikitalks. In Hebrew, you won't be surprised to hear that there are more talks about by the people who wrote the entry than the entry itself, right? So even if you go to Pythagorean theorem in Hebrew, people discuss a lot whether it's correct to do this and to do that, and they have all these kind of discussions, and they are not very formal, and there are lots of orthographic variations, there are lots of typos, and we are not this data. Another interesting facet of this is that it's a form of a nested dialogue. So we took lots of pains of the, of course, of the linguists to curate this data because the way it's represented in the markup language of Wikipedia does not always preserve this structure. Visually it does, but here you have this user called whatever, they have funny names always, right? So one of them can appear here when he's actually talking, and one can be mentioned inside the talk of another person, like this guy here, space 4 times 3, continuum 2 times, right? And you can see in this discussion that also in English, in Hebrew it's more accentuated, but in the also in English you can see all kind of lexical creatures that you don't find often when you look at standard language. So this is also something we are very interested in when we work on co-reference resolutions, because when this guy says, yes, it does, it refers to something that another person talked about. And then he said, no, it doesn't. It's the same, like we need to decide what it co-refers with and who is I, etc., etc. So you have lots of pronouns and ways to refer to the same things time and again. And in a dialogue, it behaves very differently than it does in a document like just a news article. This example is from the Wikitalk on Donald Trump page, which has lots of debates as expected. So I'm showing you a random example from a co-reference guideline, which is still an ongoing. We have quantification, so there is a way in every language to quantify the nouns you're talking about. Is it most of the people? Is it some of the people? Is it no one? Is it several, etc.? You can see that our guidelines are written always in English with examples padded both for Arabic and for Hebrew. And whenever we cite or we take examples from other works, like from Poesius' famous work, we cite it and we have references in the end of the document. Okay, So I said I will talk shortly about legal nested named entities. Actually, maybe I can show you the how it looks like in the given that our server is on. One sec. It's always risky to demo, especially with Zoom, which is technologically challenging. By the way, our Forge is SourceHat, so this is our internal Git system installed on our server with all the open questions, with mailing lists, with all the builds and etc. So every sentence I told you is stored here with all its multiple versions is securely stored here. If we go to our version of Docono, Docono is a common tool. We always log in via SourceHat, so we don't have a standard login. We go from here. There is a lot of authentication here, and I want to check for the legal. So I will check the NER. This is done by possibly someone. I go to metrics just to see the distribution. So I know Israel is the guy who worked on this. He probably did not start. So let me take another project shortly. As I said, it's a bit risky to do a demo online, but let me give it another shot. One sec. Okay, here is something that I know is by Israel. I go to metrics, I go to Israel. You can see the distribution of labels in this document. So there are tons of labels in the entities of legal texts. And then you can go to the data set itself. And if you want to kind of see how Israel works, it looks like that. And he also has access to all the metadata. So he knows who is speaking, etc., as I told you earlier. And on, he can then go and correct and give all the higher resolution categories that exist here. Okay. Maybe I can show you something else. No, let me. Enough risk for today. Okay. So this is actually the very same text, I believe. You can see the metadata, and you can see I highlighted here, this is an החלטה, this is a decision of the court, and here it's going to be דיון והכרעה. So more about the discussion and the determination, maybe, I don't know how to say it, I'm not a legal person. So I wanted to show it for two reasons, both the kind of how it looks like from the annotator's point of view, and also the access to the entire metadata on every single step of the annotation. Likewise for Arabic, here it's taken from the family courts in Israel for mostly divorce cases, etc., like the rabbinical courts, it's the Sharia law. So we don't have as much metadata, at least not yet. And we have the same categories. So, and the discussions are done side by side. So today we had a 1-hour meeting of both teams, and we discussed various problems. Do we want to nest this under that, etc., etc. And we want to be consistent not only within a single data set like Hebrew, but also across our data sets. So as I said, I will talk about the Hebrew tree bank. I just want to show you kind of morphological ambiguity. So Hebrew and Arabic are famous for that. You have a string, mem, mem, nun, hey. It could be at least one of three things. So Beit HaMishpat memaneh, right? It can appoint someone. The employer is not allowed to demand from her, mimena, right? And there is one pita falafel and chatzi mana falafel. And I want to stress that in academic papers, many times they will show you an example that has like 12 interpretations. But when you look at data, especially if you remain in the same register, you will not find this tons of examples of a single string interpreted in 8 different ways. It's potentially possible, but in reality, when you already know the register, and that's a very important thing, and that's also why we keep the metadata, you can already narrow down your what interpretations are more likely than others, and I also want to show that it's taken from the real data. This specific sentence, you can possibly find it in the protocols. It's said by a member of Knesset Tamar Zandberg. Now we know why we sent her there, to know that Chatzi Mana Falafel cost less than a whole one. That's what they discussed there. Of course, this can be, this is if you notice, when I pronounce it, it's masculine, but it can also be feminine, right? And we annotate for that too. So someone can, מעסיקה שלה ממנה, לא יודע, מישהו אחראי עליה, then we have another interpretation, which is not visible if you don't annotate it. So you can see it as kind of Legos, right? You can play with. So if it's a verb, it's like all the 4 pieces go together in the same color. If it's mimena, from her, then you have an adposition or preposition. So you have this weird, block here of 3 blocks, same color, and then you have the pronominal suffix saying to whom or from whom. And here, likewise, you have adposition, but it's only the first block, and then you have the 3 blocks going in the same color, and that's a noun, that's a mana, right? 1 piece. And you have to remember that this is only the beginning of the road, right? So like this mana falafel mi mana that we separated already in the past 3 is just one little block here that is hosted syntactically in terms of information structure within a full sentence, right? And we can know stuff about it. So this kind of structure is a graph, is a directed graph that can tell you a lot about it. So if you wanted to know, for example, in fintech industry, who purchased what from whom, and you want to know, you can learn very easily that there is a verb called purchase in Hebrew, like in other languages, rachash, and then you know who is the nominal subject. It's this guy called Kantor, right? And what did he purchase, right? So you know what's the object. You just traverse the graph and you go here and you say the noun here is ba'alut, right? Ha is the determiner and ba'alut is the noun. And ba'alut al ma, then you have to go to the modifier of the noun, and this is the company. It's a proper noun. It is explicitly told here. It's a name called Akron. And then you have another way to extract information if you want to learn when it was done, right? So you have here an oblique edge, which is a temporal mode, right? It exactly tells you when it happened, this event. When did he purchase it? And this is also, remember, like the sentence here is quite long. I just show you a small graph, but actually it's hosted again in a very large graph of a single sentence, which is not particularly long, right? So if you wanted to create all the information blocks by looking at the, kind of traversing the graphs and packaging the units of information here, you could do it pretty easily. This is already annotated data, but someone has a question, Ilan Kerneman. Ilan, I'm almost done. Can you postpone it?
It's about what you were showing just
Okay,
now
go ahead.
before you fast forward, if I may. Just why isn't it annotated, for example, here what you see, haba'alut, like you did the mimana in another place? So I noticed some of them were. For example, here we don't see that. We just see haba'alut, or somewhere else it was shechetzi. Again, it appeared as one.
Here, you mean this one?
Yeah, here we see mimana that was split, but the second word in a sentence is not.
You're right. So as you can see, there are hanging here are 2 post tags. So the meshabed, the subordinate conjunction is she, and chetzi, it's where number belongs. And just it's a limitation of my code that did not split it here. The data is splitted, as you can see here. So here you won't have this problem. This graphical way to represent it will show you that every single morpheme is separated from the other. So I kind of, you're invited to find an error, but here everything will be splitted. And again, it's a limitation of my code.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, so I remind you also that these are the labels on the edges. So they express the relation between every two morphemes, right? So if I want to know what's the relation between hey and uvdot, I have to go here and find out that it's determined, right? There is a determiner with capital letters, that's the post tag, and there is the relation. That's another thing. They can somehow look the same, but they are not. They do not actually mean the same stuff. Good. So in identity, we have great data. We have nice models, I would say, even with our modest abilities to train, thanks to Vladimir Gurevich, who trained them for us. You have a name like Yehuda Cohen, and you have some event called Tchiyat HaSafa Ha'ivrit. And later, someone might call it Tchiyat HaDibur Ha'ivri or Tchiyat Ha'ivrit. It will still be the same event, but for the computer, it's two different strings, right? So it doesn't know it's the same event. And the way to resolve it is to map it onto the ontology of Wikidata. Then it has a unique identifier, Q2917554. And this means that we are referring exactly to this. So if it's now appearing in another variation, someone decides to call it just Tchiyat Ha'ivrit, it will have the same mapping to the same identifier. Another advantage is that many of the nodes in this Wikipedia ontology, they exist in many languages. So you know how these stuff are called in other languages. So you can see in Arabic, right? It's called a different name. It's not even a revival. It's just saying that the new Hebrew language or something like that, or the official Hebrew of the Daulat Israel, Medinat Israel, right? Yehuda Cohen, of course, is more problematic. So like Yehuda Cohen who? And then, of course, if you go to Wikipedia, you have a bunch of Yehuda Cohens, right? And it turns out it's this guy, which is actor. Apparently, there is a musician one. And there are many others. When we looked at our data for the name Levi, so you will have like sometimes spelled out with the full name, and in another part of the document, you'll have two different Levis, only with the string Levi as an indicator for who it is. And we want to resolve this issue. We want to know who of all the entire population of Levis we are referring to. And there are lots of them. Okay. My fun project is Arabic varieties. Again, the importance of metadata cannot be stressed enough. So we have videos and audios. The way we collect them, we try to find videos and audios which are Creative Commons, which is contemporary, which are recorded as much as possible authentically in a setting which is kind of, we will not going to transcribe a play, right? And what we don't find, we do. So we have our linguists go to the field, so to speak, and do this field linguistics exercise. And they, if we say, you know, we are missing some people from this area of Israel, we want to record more people, we do that. Every video has a video number. It has, we know the year, the length, the genre. We know the topic, so there are a variety of topics, and these are kind of sociolinguistic categories you can ignore for now. We can kind of dedicate a whole lecture for that. And for every speaker, we know what video he was taken from, and then we know the Rugal Galilee, it's north of Israel. Then we can say specifically it's from Kufr Kanna. This guy is in the range of ages estimated 40 to 49. She's a female and she's a teacher, and we can see that we have different roles, and it's important to know it when you want to interpret what people do, because when you look at the data itself and you have this speaker one, it's all anonymized, you can always attach to every speaker for every talk like tons of metadata. Here we have the timestamps, the duration of each stamp, and the dialogue. I did not have time to introduce a slide from Dixie Lang that worked closely with us. One of the benefits of working in a consortium is that when someone use it for their purposes, they, yes, Eyal, I'm listening. Eyal, you wanted to ask something? Okay. Okay. So they did a lot of work on this data, and they fixed our time. There were in the beginning lots of time codes problem. Then all the other members enjoy it. I was surprised to hear that they use it a lot for evaluation. So they have a lot of their own home-brewed data. But since the data here is gold, they can always use it for evaluation and to fine-tune their objective function to learn better how to, for example, add subtitles automatically, right? Which is something they would do, but they can only do it once they have this goal. So that's also true for any question that may arise later about large language models. I mean, the jury is still out. But I think also when they train their data, I don't think I read the papers, they use a lot of gold standard on known tasks to know how they perform. Otherwise, their models can go berserk. You know, they can go in various directions as they often do. Just to know that this spoken data is also annotated for morphology. So again, we have the vocalized canonical form. We have the part of speech, and this is by morpheme. Whenever you see a space after no, it means it's connected to the next word. This is the distribution in our spoken data. Non-gender distribution, female versus male. So we have more males, obviously, in our data, 200 speakers versus around 90 speakers, which are female. And then the age groups are varying, as you can see from the plot. You can see what areas in Israel and outside we cover more in our data. That depends also on the requests of our clients. We always appreciate the feedback. The locations are here, so we have mostly people from Jerusalem, then from Kufr Kana, from one reason or another, Nazareth, Haifa, etc., Ramallah, etc. What's next? So we are about to finish. Again, that's Vova's work, Vladimir Gurevich, training for us a single pipeline for Spacey-like tool that would do in one run universal dependencies, named entity recognition, and core reference. A completely free version will be available too, trained on less data. We are almost done with creating two plugins, one for Hebrew and one for Arabic for Elasticsearch. It's being tested. We have some testing in different offices in the government. And we are also experimenting with data augmentation using LLMs. I can only talk about one experiment, but maybe I will open the floor first to questions. You're in total shock.
No, you have a question in the chat.
Sorry?
You have a question in the chat.
How do you handle mixed Arabic and Hebrew with Israeli Arabic persons and in spoken data? We do, because as it says, it exists. So currently, we just so there are two ways that native Arabic speakers speak in Hebrew. One of them is Rayah ala Kupat Holim, right? And then ala Kupat Holim, and then Kupat Holim is already kind of native to Arabic in some sense. You can see it also in the morphology, right? So native Arabic speakers in Israel, they say Beged Yam, and how they say it in plural, they say Beged Yamat. So you can already see it's part of the morphological system of Arabic, and therefore we write it in Arabic. When they use it kind of as a side comment, which is totally in Hebrew and not already domesticated in Arabic, we put it in Arabic script, and we also annotate it as such. And then, does that address the question? And someone said it cannot find something. לא מצאתי היכן הקורפוס של ישראל.
אז זה אייל, אייל הוא חוקר באקדמיה, אז הוא צריך לעשות פשוט בקשה.
Just write, for academics, we have one-page form. It takes less than a minute to fill out, and you get the data. That's it. So just write to us later.
יש עוד שאלות? טוב, נראה שהכל מובן.
או שהכל לא מובן.
טוב, חברים, אם אין שאלות, אז קודם כל תודה רבה על השתתפותכם באירוע. יש עוד איזה שאלה.
Did we think about it? Yeah, I'm still after the clients of IAHLT that want to use our Arabic data for teaching Arabic. So you're very welcome. I would be very, I've been learning Arabic all my life. I still don't know it. And I really, I would be super happy. I think we have lots of data that is very useful for pedagogical purposes. I may say something about the ChatGPT experiment we had. We wanted to, it's not really an answer to your question. So the honest question is no, we did not, but we are not kind of paid to do that also. But what we did do is like creating this data is very expensive. So what we did is we prompted ChatGPT with the following. We told them the metadata parameters that we are interested. Like this is a guy from Ramallah, he's 15, he's talking about medical condition, okay? And then we found such lines in our data and we gave like the beginning of a dialogue and then we say, go ahead, continue. This is speaker one, this is speaker two. You know everything you wanted to know about speaker one, about speaker two, continue. And we wanted to see whether it sticks to the exact dialect that we wanted to stick to. And interestingly, in some cases, or it's not very interesting, it's kind of maybe trivial, it does amazing job sometimes. So sometimes it just goes on and it rambles as if it was ChatGPT was born in Ramallah and he's exactly 15 and he has a medical condition, exactly the one this dude from Ramallah had. And then all of a sudden, as it happens with ChatGPT, it starts to talk as if it's a professor in some high university in Egypt in a very eloquent, elevated language, not resembling anything of a dialect. So, and when it does this kind of terms, like when it does it, we don't know, like it's a mystery. So we want to use it because some examples we have are great, but we have to use it cautiously, again, because like I think our main mandate here is to create data people can trust.
שומעים אותי אולי?
כן.
אוקיי, הנה המיקרופון השתחרר. אני חושב I think that's because he was trained on the NSA, on Egyptian Arabic. That's why because it's the most common Arabic dialect. So if you take a GPT from outside, that's what he will give you.
I would agree with you if it would start to speak in Egyptian dialect, but it started to speak in MSA. So it started to speak in modern standard Arabic. I mean, I used it as a metaphor, professor from Egypt. I didn't really mean that he spoke Egyptian and said, Awaz and all this Zayak and Hardait. It actually started to speak as if it's a written text. And it also, it created consistently some parts of the dialogue in the expected or in the desired dialect. But then again, it just started to, for no obvious reason, it started to change. So it's not very consistent. And you're right, it's a lot about the training data, but we know that also prompting is not really, it's far from being an exact science, right? Yeah.
But by the way, interesting enough, today, maybe we should try it later on, there's an option that we can tell the ChatGPT to ignore specific inputs. So, for example, it'd be interesting to tell him, please ignore, I don't know, just for the case of it, yeah, Egyptian sources, okay? And see if it influences the results. Because I know it's possible to tell ChatGPT to ignore inputs that you don't want them, or you can tell them let's say the output, please show me, I don't know, in Hebrew, in Arabic, or in English. So maybe it's an option to just try, see if it influences the results.
Yeah, and we can also use open source. So I'm all for using data we know where it came from, and that also the papers published are actually transparent. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, by the way, you can still keep in touch with us. You can send email to Noam or to me. You can go to our website, to the IAHLT.org. It is a contact us form and send us emails. So you can contact us for any issue that you want to contact us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I take this silence as thank you too, Noam.
Thank you too, Noam.
Thank you.
Super.
Yeah, תמיד פולני.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Okay, take
Thank
care.
you.
And this
Thank you.
video will be online, I guess, right, Avner?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Tal,
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.